with reaction. Pennsylvania Democratic Senator John Fetterman. I think I know you pretty well. I don't think you want to abolish the police. I don't think you want to abolish prisons. I don't think you want to take away people's homes. I don't think you want Democrats seizing the means of production. I don't think you want criminals that commit rape and murder that are here illegally not deported. Am I wrong?
Oh, well, of course, Sean. And now the ones that difference between me and other Democrats, we're a Democrat that's willing to call out these individuals and some of the absurd things that they have said and the kinds of beliefs they are. The one thing that absolutely is in common, just contempt for Israel, that essentially is becoming just rank anti-Semitism. The individual that just won in Colorado, she refused to describe the situation where someone firebombed a group of Jews that was just rallying for the Israeli hostages at that time and killed a woman. She refused to even address that. Is that anti-Semitic? So this is the point. And now there's that strong correlation. Anti-Israel, drifting into anti-Semitism, very, very intensely anti-American. And now just here, that individual also believes America deserved 9/11. And of course, Israel deserved the massacre of 10/7. That's been building. When I was on Jesse's show back in early May, I warned, I said the Democratic Party we're heading for an orgy of socialism, and now look, and here we are for these things. So these very specific kinds of candidates, these aren't my smears. These are using their own words and their own views and their tweets and the things that they've said and the way they've behaved. And then, of course, you have the king of the dirtbags of P. Hustle up in Maine, roughing up ex-girlfriends and spend a decade on the social media called Kick that's been described as the predator's paradise for why people are on that kinds of platforms. So, as a Democrat, it's entirely appropriate to just call that out. I'm always happy to be on your show. You're not going to see me criticize or go after. We have some great candidates like Ossoff, Brown, and you have Tallarico. He's a nice guy, no matter what anybody would say thing. And of course, Roy Cooper in North Carolina,
Senator.
So these are normal Democrats. I don't know why we have other Democrats, even people that are calling for their jobs in leadership, saying you're next. Why can't you just push back and say these are abhorrent beliefs? Communism, socialism. And now for me, what my real concern is, the Democratic Party is going to put it into the platform, is an anti-Israel party, that Israel does not have the right to defend itself and to exist. And the second that becomes a formal part of our platform, and that's the one thing that would push me out of this party, because, I'm deeply alarmed the way the Democratic Party is going after Israel and allowing to just rank anti-Semitism to flourish, in the left on the campuses as well, too.
Look, Tallarico may be a nice guy. If you know what the 6 genders that he's referring to is, I really appreciate you educating us, because I don't know what they are, or God being non-binary. I'm not sure what he meant there either. He seems.
Sean, I don't agree with all those views either. Again, I'm not saying, but I'm saying. I mean, I think we can all agree. Paxton is kind of he has a little Plattner energy, too, as well, too. I work with John Cornyn. He is a rock-ribbed conservative. He has actual respect across the aisle. So now Texas picked, Paxton. But for me,
let me ask you the big question. The big question to me is, the leaders of your party, the Chuck Schumers, the Hakeem Jeffries, why are they so fearful to speak out and take on these radical views that the Democratic Party never supported before? I can't believe that hardworking, blue-collar Democrats and Republicans in Pennsylvania support any of this madness. I don't believe that for a second.
What I'm saying is, like, as a Democrat, like, I will absolutely call this out who they are. Like, I would never pretend to say anything good about any of this new crop of people that are coming into Congress. I refuse to do that. Why can't you just say that? Every time you tell voters to say, oh, it's okay, no problem here, no problem here. People know, they have eyes, they have ears. They're appalled by it too across, people. Then you lose your credibility. Well, so that's the way every Democrat should. We should police our own ranks right now and say, look, this is not a big tent kind of situation. These are people that have intensely extreme anti-American kinds of views. And now you've seen the new polls. 45% of Democrats are only proud to be American. I think
it's
that's
actually less than that. I know, it's sad. I have to let you go, but
I
will say this.
Honestly,
what I will
say is that
you are the only voice of reason in your party right now that I see. You really are.
Well, I'm saying it's like if less than 45% of Democrats are even proud to be an American, and I'm insanely proud and grateful to be American. If the numbers are that low, that's why they are nominating people that are an avowed communist and have deeply anti views. So for me, that's distressing to me as a
Senator,
Democrat.
I got to roll. We appreciate you being with us, Senator John Fetterman, the one. All right, thanks for watching. Check out my new podcast, Hanging Out with me, Sean Hannity. The big interviews, the debates you won't get anywhere else. Like and subscribe for new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday.